every purchase you made was announced to the world? What if your bank account felt jealous, adventurous, or hedonistic? What if you visited a nutritionist for financial advice? Method Money was an exploratory research project, Future of Money, using an insights-led approach to speculative design. The process aimed to bring the future into the present and create tangible stimulus for discussion. We created 3 social experiments in which future scenarios could be lived and experienced. We challenged our staff to log all of their transactions over the course of 1 month. Using Instagram, a platform normally dedicated to aspirational lifestyle imagery, we shared every transaction in a candid stream, seeking to challenge finance as a social taboo, make it public, and start conversations. Money has huge potential to work as a smart product. We wondered, if it was smart, would it have personality? We designed artifacts for 5 potential personalities and conducted a social experiment over the course of a week, in which 5 members of the method team lived with a prototype personality. Communicating with each other via IM, they each shared control of their finances with an autonomous digital actor. Inspired by research on the effects of hormones on the decision-making of financial workers, we designed the Bank of Physiology, a hypothetical institute at the convergence of finance and healthcare, which delivers hormone-powered financial advice. Using hormone analysis technology to enable you to understand your spending patterns and improve your financial well-being. To find out more, go to method.com.
So we did this project in our London studio, and it was a very interesting approach. We'd been doing quite a lot of financial work up to that point, working with a lot of banks, and got some great insight, but we wanted to kind of go a little further, something that was maybe a little less conservative, experimenting with the knowledge we gained on the projects we've been working on. And so the biggest question we had was, how will we live with money in the future? What will money be like in 10 years and 20 years? And we wanted to use the studio as a testing ground, really a way to sort of work on stimulating critical discussion amongst the designers, as well as with clients. So some core starting points. Money really isn't a means to an end. These are just, it's not about money, it's about what you do with money. And of course, the great prophet, Notorious B.I.G., told us that more is more problems. Money is the root of all evil. And that money is boring. What is happening in money? Where's the real innovation there? And so we started with a few sort of what if questions. What if the tooth fairy was cashless? What if a bank was established for polyamorous couples? Or not couples, more than couples. What if the financial sector was run by women? What if Scotland leaves the pound and created some new type of currency? And so in the course of asking ourselves these questions, we settled on 3 core areas that we wanted to sort of experiment in: privacy, physiology, and personality. So with privacy, if our finances were public, what would we change? Would our purchase history tell us something about who we are? Would sharing everything that we purchased keep us more honest? Would we tell ourselves stories about the things that we like and enjoy spending money on? So we spent a couple of weeks and had everyone involved in the project log all of their purchases on Instagram. They would simply take a photo of everything they were purchasing, post it to Instagram with the tag Method Money. And then we built a small app that we displayed in the studio so everyone could see what those purchases were. You could see where they were made, how much it was, various things associated with it. It became a really interesting way to start to see trends and how people showed off what they were buying. And then just right away, we started to see things like the sort of change in behavior that it caused in people, knowing that all this work was going to be shared, or these purchases are going to be shared. So things like showing what you'd bought, maybe you'd think a little bit more about the things you buy. A lot of people who said, oh, of course, I spend lots of time at the museum. There weren't as many museum photos, the sort of honesty level. There were a lot of very mundane purchases. And it also forced us to really think through our value systems about what we were showing. Additionally, we had a little printer set up in the studio from the now sadly lost Berg that we used as a way to have people share their secret purchases. You know, I spent half of my salary on clothes this weekend, how much their rent is, things that they weren't comfortable with sharing. It just became a way to kind of anonymously share what you're making purchases on. We got lots of great trends, seeing what people were purchasing, and we started to see really interesting pictures of people's personality. One in particular, Philip Blakey, who worked on this project, he, you know, we got this great sense that just simply from these purchases that he cycles to work, that he shops at a particular grocery store, he eats in a particular neighborhood quite regularly, that he probably doesn't take the subway very often because every 3 weeks he only puts 10 pounds on his Oyster card. And you know, without knowing anything about Philip, you know, the data started to show that he's sort of a man's man in terms of his purchases. He's buying a lot of beer, he's playing rugby, he's rock climbing, he's recently purchased a delivery van, actually a couple of times. So there's some very interesting data in there. But additionally, you start to you see interesting trends with people. This guy, Mike. Who's Mike? Lots of photos, lots of purchases shared with this person. Is he a boyfriend? Is he a friend? Is he a flatmate? You know, so these really interesting questions came out of this. What happens when your friends know about these purchases? So the next area we explored was physiology. Really understanding that, of course, behavior it drives quite a lot, or hormonal behavior drives quite a lot of our financial decisions, kind of compulsive behavior, you know, how we're feeling on a particular day. And we developed this concept called the bank of physiology. And we showed what it would be like if you actually were to test this. And we mocked up a couple of things and brought in some people to talk with about this. You know, the idea that a bank might have a whole new cast of characters associated with analyzing this data. You know, behavioral therapists, general practitioners, doctors, you know, data homeopathists. So these sorts of people that could make recommendations about our financial spending based on hormonal recommendations, based on the way we're feeling on any particular day. We mocked up and experience prototyped, which is a core part of a lot of this thinking, is actually testing ideas in a really lightweight way. Being able to, you know, with Instagram, being able to very quickly mock up a way to share those photos. We pulled a chip and pen reader and just mocked up what it would be like to check out every single time if you gave a thumbprint or blood or any number of things that would allow us to get more information. And really challenging this idea of both privacy and the physiological impact of that. We mocked up toothbrushes that would allow us to get data from you every day, and that became a really interesting exercise of what is it like in the morning when you brush your teeth and start to generate this data, and these became really powerful tools to experiment with. And as you can see, based on that data, we can start to say, oh, high cortisol levels, there's a real danger for impulse spending today, so be aware. What recommendations can we make based on that? And so a quick example of that, I believe. There we go. You start to be able to make these kinds of quick recommendations and understanding where the challenges are, what you can do to change behavior and evolve over time. And then lastly was the personality. If money was smart, would it have a personality? Would it have a character? You know, it's not so far away from being depicted in film right now, just the idea that software and physical things can start to take on a characteristic. So what we did was we prototyped by assigning 5 different personality types of money to people. And we built a simple chat app that allowed people to share and quickly ask. So one was frugal, another was jealous, there was one that was mindful, one that's adventurous and hedonistic. And each of these characteristics started with some questions, that if I could ask my money a question for each of these behaviors, what might that be? So for example, mindful, I noticed you got the macadamia nut. Do you know they're the most calorie-dense nuts? The adventuresome, awesome, your account balance is super high, we should invest some money today. The jealous one, Jane has spent 7% more this month than normal, we should keep an eye on her. So the idea that money might have a characteristic and a nature was something that was really interesting for us to play with. And so for the course of a 1-week exercise, anytime you made a purchase, we just used this quick prototype with chat and assigned another person to be the personality. And you just type, what should I spend? I'm at this store, what should I do? and the money would make recommendations back to you. The person on the other end would make recommendations back to you. And it was very interesting. The frugal one at dinner was recommended, what should I eat tonight, recommended a recipe and just sent the recipe through. The hedonistic one was recommended to buy a quite expensive 40-pound bottle of perfume. I think it was the adventuresome was a ticket to a play. And so in each of these cases, the idea that the money takes an active role was really fun for us to play with, and we got a lot of great insight by running through it this way. And we physically prototyped quite a lot of this work. We built, used Shigeru and other things to prototype examples of what some cards might be like, the jealousy of cards that are bound together, one that knows what the other is doing, the idea of imbuing physical items with chips from chip and pen, what happens when the ping pong ball is money. Just playing with that, having it in our hands, and actually thinking through some of those examples. The physicality really drove our thinking quite a bit. The idea that the card curls up based on certain activities as it's really active. This one down in the middle center is the hedonistic one. It inflated over time as you had more money, so it really indicated clearly to you what you could be doing. So the conclusion, what place does design research have in a design studio now? And the first thing is that it's really the designer's responsibility to do this. Oftentimes, research, strategy, that kind of thinking gets separated into another group. It's a core part of design. We think through making, that design is a verb, not a noun. Design is an action, is a thing that we do. And by understanding the ability to prototype, to make, to test, to try, that's really the hard part of design. That's the exciting part that drives these real insights. And lastly, being able to really clearly articulate this. We pulled all of this information back out and turned it into a presentation, a physical walkthrough that people could see. And this was a really powerful way to sort of express our thinking. It became a great way for people to understand the power of this approach in design by literally walking through it, by being able to articulate and work our way through it. And so that's Method Money. Thanks very much. Appreciate your time.